Welcome to our summary of Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. In this book, Harari asks us to think about the future of humanity and our planet. He warns that if we chase power and progress without thinking about ethics and responsibility, we could face serious problems. Harari looks at new technologies like bioengineering, cyborgs, and artificial intelligence, and asks deep questions about what it means to be human. He doesn't just ask where we're going. He wants us to decide where we want to go, and how we can create a future that's not only advanced, but also ethical and sustainable. The first big change in human history was the cognitive revolution, about 70,000 years ago. This was when our ancestors' brains developed, allowing them to think and communicate better. They created complex languages, which changed how they talked, understood the world, and worked together. These new abilities helped them outsmart other species and build societies more advanced than any others. Next came the agricultural revolution, about 12,000 years ago. This period turned humans from wandering hunters and gatherers into settled farmers. Growing food allowed for larger populations and permanent communities. This was the start of modern civilizations, with organized societies and social classes. Then, around 500 years ago, the scientific revolution began. This period was marked by curiosity and discovery, changing how we understood the world. It led to technological advances that greatly affect how we live today. Throughout the book, Harari asks an important question: are we happier? He challenges us to think about whether all these achievements and the power we've gained have actually made us happier or just changed the way we deal with our problems. This sets up a deeper exploration of human history and what it means to be happy. The book then dives into the early days of our species. For millions of years, early humans lived quietly among other animals, without standing out. Even when Homo sapiens appeared around 150,000 years ago, with brains like ours, they didn't show any signs of future greatness. They lived much like their ancestors, fitting into the natural world without making much impact. This all changed with the cognitive revolution about 70,000 years ago. Developing complex language was a turning point. It wasn't just about better communication. It allowed people to imagine things together, believe in shared myths, and dream of ideas that went beyond what they could see. This ability to unite through shared beliefs laid the foundation for more complex societies and large-scale cooperation, leading to the advanced civilizations that followed. As humans became smarter, they also became more ambitious, spreading out from Africa to other parts of the world. Their encounters with other human species, like Neanderthals, were important, though it's unclear whether these meetings were peaceful or violent. What we do know is that Homo sapiens became the only surviving human species, with the others eventually going extinct. This spread across the world wasn't peaceful. When Homo sapiens arrived in new areas, it often led to the extinction of large animals that lived there. Animals like the giant Diprotodon in Australia and the marsupial lion disappeared, marking what Harari calls the first wave extinction. This pattern repeated in other parts of the world, showing how early humans had a significant and often destructive impact on their environment, a trend that would continue as they shaped the planet further. As we get into the second part of Sapiens, the story shifts to the agricultural revolution, a major event in human history that happened about 10,000 years ago. While this period is often seen as a big step forward, Harari gives us a different view, calling it history's biggest fraud. Even though farming led to more food and bigger populations, it also trapped people in problems they didn't expect. Harari talks about the luxury trap. At first, the idea of having a steady food supply and a place to live pulled people away from their nomadic, foraging lifestyle. But farming turned out to be anything but freeing. Farmers had to work longer hours, eat a less varied diet, and deal with more diseases and hunger. Instead of being a clear improvement, this change made life harder and more risky. The agricultural revolution also changed the environment in a big way. By domesticating plants and animals and turning wild areas into farmland, humans caused a huge loss of biodiversity and upset natural ecosystems. This was the start of major environmental changes caused by humans, a trend that only got worse over time. As farming grew, so did the idea of imagined orders, shared beliefs and stories that helped people work together and form complex societies. Writing became important in this process because it allowed these societies to organize and grow by keeping track of laws, taxes, and history. While these changes led to the creation of cities and empires, they also created deep social divides and inequalities, often justified by cultural stories and religious beliefs. Harari asks us to rethink the agricultural revolution not just as a big step in human progress, but as something with both good and bad sides. While it led to the rise of civilizations and large-scale cooperation, it also made life harder for many people and caused serious environmental damage. This view encourages us to think carefully about the true costs and benefits of this key moment in history. As Sapiens continues, the section called The Unification of Humankind looks at how different cultures and societies slowly came together to form today's globalized world. Harari points to three main forces behind this unification: money, empires, and universal religions, each playing a unique role in connecting the world. Harari takes us through the history of money, showing how it started with simple things like barley and cowrie shells, and has now become digital transactions. He explains that money isn't just a physical thing, it's a powerful idea based on trust. What makes money so important is its ability to compare different goods, making trade and cooperation possible between people who don't know each other and between different societies. As money developed into a global system, first backed by precious metals and later by widely trusted currencies like the pound and dollar, it became key in connecting the world's economies and influencing its politics and cultures. The story also looks at the rise and fall of empires, which have been a big part of human political organization for thousands of years. Even though empires often started through violence and control, they played a huge role in spreading ideas, technologies, and cultural practices across large regions. Expansion was often justified by beliefs in cultural superiority or divine right, but these large political structures also helped create a sense of unity and shared purpose, bringing together diverse groups into larger, more complex societies. Harari then talks about the impact of universal religions like Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam, which promote a global moral code and actively seek new followers. These religions created a sense of belonging that went beyond local tribes and nations, encouraging a global identity. Unlike local religions that worshipped specific gods, these monotheistic religions taught the existence of one all-powerful God, which helped unify large groups of people under a common spiritual and moral framework. In this part of Sapiens, Harari gives a detailed look at the complex forces that have led to global unity. Through the combined effects of money, empires, and religions, diverse human cultures have gradually come together to form the interconnected world we know today. Despite the challenges and conflicts that came with it, this process has created a global village where shared ideas, values, and practices shape our collective past, present, and future. As the story moves into the fourth part of Sapiens, called the Scientific Revolution, we enter a time that completely changed how humans interact with the world. Harari explains that the scientific revolution was more than just a time of learning. It was a major shift in how we think about knowledge. Unlike earlier times, when people thought they knew everything, this new scientific approach was based on the idea that we don't know everything and that there is still much to discover. This change was important because it opened up endless possibilities for learning and pushed the boundaries of science and technology. Harari says the key to this revolution was its focus on observation and mathematics. The scientific method, which uses careful observation and mathematical models to develop theories, has greatly increased our understanding of the universe. This shift from relying on old stories to using a systematic, testable approach has led to massive technological advancements and given us more control over our surroundings. Harari also talks about how modern science isn't just about understanding the world, but also about mastering it. This drive to control and change our environment has led to major innovations, from medical advances to modern farming, that have transformed every part of human life. But this pursuit of power also raises important ethical questions about how we use this power and what the consequences might be. The relationship between science and empire is a key point here. Harari looks at how European imperialism and scientific exploration grew together, each helping the other to advance. As Europeans explored new lands, they gained more scientific knowledge, which then helped them control these vast territories. While science brought many good things, like better medicine and farming techniques, it also contributed to the darker side of imperialism, including exploitation and oppression. In this part of the book, Harari shows us how the quest for knowledge has turned into a quest for power, shaping the modern world in big ways. He asks us to think about how scientific progress can both improve our lives and increase human control, which isn't always a good thing. Moving from the scientific revolution to the industrial revolution, we enter a time of rapid changes in technology and the economy that deeply affected society and the environment. The Industrial Revolution was driven by new energy sources like coal and steam power, along with advances in materials and manufacturing. This period led to a huge increase in human productivity, the rise of cities, the growth of an industrial working class, and a shift away from traditional family and community ties. The impact on the environment was also big. As people used more natural resources than ever before, they caused widespread damage, cutting down forests, polluting the air and water, and driving many species to extinction. Harari describes the Industrial Revolution as the start of a new era, marked by great power and fast progress, but also by new challenges and responsibilities. This time in history isn't just in the past. Its effects are still shaping our world today. While the Industrial Revolution brought amazing technological advancements, it also unleashed forces that make us question whether our growth is sustainable and how we should manage our environment. In the next chapter, called The Capitalist Creed, Harari explores how capitalism has shaped the modern world, not just in terms of the economy, but also in how it influences our values, scientific progress, and environmental policies. He explains the rise of capitalism by focusing on its core ideas of growth and reinvestment. The constant push for economic growth, driven by new technologies and reinvesting profits, has defined modern economies and shaped our ideas of success, happiness, and progress. This chapter encourages us to think about whether this endless drive for growth is sustainable, or if we need to rethink our values and priorities. Harari also looks at the role of credit in driving economic growth. Credit is like a bet on the future, turning promises of future returns into value today. This system has allowed both businesses and governments to fund new projects and technologies, driving economic expansion and innovation. He uses modern banking as an example. Most of the money in our accounts is just electronic data, and its value depends on our collective trust that future economic activities will create enough wealth to support it. The link between capitalism, science, and politics is a key theme here. The drive for profit has a big impact on scientific research and technology, with money often going to areas that promise the most returns. This has led to major advancements in medicine and farming, but it also brings up worries about science being driven more by money than by the pure search for knowledge. There's also the issue of how capitalism affects the environment. The constant push for growth can lead to using up resources too quickly and harming the planet. This shows the ongoing struggle to find a balance between growing the economy and protecting the environment. Next, the focus shifts to consumerism, a big part of modern life that feeds into the capitalist need for endless growth. Consumerism pushes people to keep buying more, influenced by ads and media. This way of thinking not only shapes what we want, but also challenges old values like saving and being happy with what we already have. Harari suggests that while consumerism helps the economy, it might hurt personal happiness by creating a culture of never being satisfied. The chapter ends by asking whether this model of always chasing more is sustainable, questioning if it really brings lasting happiness or just traps us in a cycle of wanting more and damaging the environment. This part makes us think about the true cost of our modern way of life and its impact on the future. In Sapiens, the chapter Changing Nature of Human Societies looks at the big changes brought by the Industrial Revolution, which completely changed how people live and relate to each other. Harari talks about how this huge shift broke down traditional family roles and local communities, leading to the rise of two new powerful forces, the state and the market. Harari starts by painting a picture of life before the Industrial Revolution, where families and local communities were the heart of social life. These close groups took care of everything, from work to education, healthcare, and social support. Families and communities were the main safety nets, schools, doctors, and economic centers. The Industrial Revolution brought a new era of efficiency and mass production, which started to break down the old ways of life that had been around for centuries. As work moved from rural homes to factories and cities, families lost their traditional economic roles. At the same time, people were drawn away from their small communities into big cities. The state grew larger and began to take over roles that families and communities used to handle, like education, healthcare, and welfare. The growing market offered people new choices and opportunities, but this also weakened the close bonds of family and community, leading to a more disconnected society. This big change gave people more freedom from the old, rigid roles, but it also led to feelings of loneliness and a loss of social unity. The state and the market started to control more of people's lives. The state, with its laws and systems, made sure the industrial economy ran smoothly. At the same time, the market, filled with consumer goods, shaped what people wanted and how they measured success, often in terms of material wealth. This transformation had both good and bad sides. While it gave people more opportunities and freedom, it also weakened the close-knit communities that had been part of human life for so long, replacing them with more distant, business-like relationships. Harari asks us to think about whether this new way of life is sustainable and if we need to shift some power back to local communities. He questions whether the gains in personal freedom are worth the loss of community ties and social unity. As the chapter Changing Nature of Human Societies continues, it looks at how traditional communities changed into what Harari calls imagined communities. These are large groups of people who don't know each other personally, but still feel a sense of belonging and shared identity. As the old bonds weakened, the state and the market created these new forms of connection, like nations promoted by the state and consumer tribes created by the These imagined communities have become powerful forces in shaping people's identities and loyalties, promoting ideas like nationalism and consumerism that benefit the state and market. The Industrial Revolution also led to fast social and cultural changes, bringing a time of quick technological progress and major shifts in society. This rapid pace of change has become a defining feature of modern life, creating a world where social norms, technology, and cultural values can change within a single generation. Harari suggests that while this fast evolution can be exciting, it also causes confusion, presenting new challenges that test our old ideas of stability and continuity. In conclusion, this chapter gives a clear and thought-provoking look at the big changes the Industrial Revolution brought to human societies. It shows how traditional social structures like family and community declined, how new forces like the state and market rose to power, and how quickly society has changed. These elements all play a role in the complex world we live in today, highlighting the ongoing struggle between individual freedom and community, as well as between freedom and control. This story leaves us amazed by the dramatic changes we've made in our social world, but it also makes us wonder if we can handle the powerful forces we've unleashed. As we move into the chapter, The Paradox of Peace and Violence, the story shifts to look at the complicated relationship between violence and peace in today's world. Even though modern times might seem violent, it's argued that we are actually living in one of the most peaceful times in history. There has been a big drop in large-scale wars and overall violence, which is a major change that often gets overlooked. Several important reasons help explain this, making us rethink how we see the world and where it's going. One key reason for this peace is the high cost of war, especially now that we have nuclear weapons. The existence of nuclear arms makes the idea of a full-scale war between big countries almost impossible to imagine because the results would be disastrous. This fear acts as a strong reason to avoid such wars. Also, the way wealth is seen has changed. In the past, wealth was tied to physical things like land and gold, but now it's more about people's skills and complex economic systems. This change makes old-fashioned conquests less profitable and less attractive. Another important reason is that peace is now more profitable. In today's global economy, which depends on trade and investment, peace is much more valuable than war. The world's economies are so connected that any conflict can cause major disruptions, giving countries a strong reason to avoid war and keep things peaceful. The chapter also talks about the rise of a peace-loving group of leaders, people in politics, business, and culture, who see war as both wrong and unnecessary. This change in attitude among those in power has made war less glorified and has promoted peaceful ways to solve conflicts. This cultural shift has had a big impact on how countries relate to each other, helping to create a world where peace is preferred over conflict. But the story doesn't ignore the violence that still exists within countries. Even though there are fewer international wars, many places still face internal conflicts, civil unrest, and human rights abuses. The rise of powerful governments has helped reduce violence between individuals and local disputes, but it has also led to new forms of control, like authoritarian regimes and political repression. The chapter also talks about the challenges of the Anthropocene, the current era where humans have a huge impact on the planet's climate and ecosystems. This time is marked by serious environmental problems, like resource depletion, climate change, and pollution. These issues show how important it is to have sustainable practices and take care of our planet. The story warns that while our drive for progress has led to great advancements, it also brings serious risks that need immediate attention to avoid potential disasters. This part of the book makes us think deeply about the complexities of our modern world, where progress often brings new challenges and tough decisions. As The Paradox of Peace and Violence comes to an end, the chapter takes a deep look at the balance between peace and violence in our world today. While it recognizes the high levels of peace and prosperity we've seen in recent years, it also warns us not to become too relaxed. The story reminds us that even with these gains, there's still violence within countries, environmental problems in the Anthropocene, and the risk of new conflicts and inequalities. Our time is one of both peace and tension. This paradox shows that the future is uncertain and that the choices we make now are crucial. The path we choose could either keep us on the road to peace and prosperity or lead us into conflict and trouble. The chapter ends with a mix of hope and responsibility, encouraging us to see how fragile peace can be and to work together to tackle the big challenges facing the world. It makes us think about our role in shaping the future and stresses the importance of being aware and taking deliberate actions to keep peace and protect our planet. In the final chapter, called The End of Homo Sapiens, the focus shifts to what might happen in the future, a future where we might not be limited by our biological bodies. The chapter explores new fields like bioengineering, cyborg engineering, and creating life from non-living materials, suggesting that these technologies could change the course of human evolution. We are at the edge of a new era where we could replace natural selection with intelligent design, giving us control over the basic building blocks of life. The chapter talks about some amazing advances in bioengineering, like creating a fluorescent green rabbit named Alba and engineering bacteria to produce biofuels and insulin. These breakthroughs hint at a future where diseases could be cured, lifespans extended, and human abilities, both physical and mental, greatly improved. Imagine a world where people have superhuman intelligence, incredible physical strength, or even emotions that can be programmed. What once seemed like science fiction is now becoming possible. Next, the chapter looks at cyborg engineering, where organic and inorganic parts are combined to boost human abilities. From bionic limbs to brain-computer connections, these technologies blur the line between human and machine, making us question what it means to be human. How will we think about ourselves if our bodies and minds become more and more linked with technology? The chapter also explores artificial intelligence and genetic programming, considering the possibility of creating life from non-living materials. This challenges our old ideas about what it means to be alive, especially if we manage to create digital beings with self-awareness and their own thoughts. As we move into these new areas, the chapter doesn't avoid the tough ethical questions that come with these technologies. With the power to change life itself, issues like inequality and changes in human identity are bound to come up. What happens if only a few people can afford genetic enhancements? How will we see ourselves if our new abilities make us very different from the humans we know today? The chapter also raises concerns about how we treat animals in genetic research and the possible unintended consequences of these advanced technologies. As the chapter comes to an end, it not only looks at the huge potential of new technologies, but also stresses the need for careful thought and worldwide discussions about how we use them. It's important to weigh the benefits against the risks and moral issues. As we stand at the edge of big changes, the author urges us to think critically about the path we're taking, reminding us that we have a responsibility to future generations in guiding the direction of human evolution. This chapter leaves us with a strong sense of both the possibilities ahead and the serious choices we must make as we move forward. In the final chapter, The End of Homo Sapiens, the book asks a big question: what do we want to become? As we face groundbreaking changes, this question, known as the human enhancement question, pushes us to think beyond what science can currently do or what we believe is right. It asks us to dig deeper. What do we want to want? This question makes us think about our deepest desires and how new technologies could change those desires. It forces us to consider a future where our values and goals might be shaped or changed, making us wonder how we might unknowingly shape our own evolution. As the chapter nears its conclusion, the focus shifts to the need for responsible and careful decision-making about the future of life itself. The author emphasizes that while seeking knowledge and power is a natural part of being human, it's crucial that we aim this pursuit at improving humanity and protecting the planet. There's a call for an ethical approach to scientific advancements, urging us to think about their long-term effects. We are reminded that we are not just watching history happen, we are actively shaping it and the legacy we leave for future generations. This responsibility means we must make wise, informed choices with a deep sense of care and compassion. The book ends by returning to a key question: are we happier? This question captures the complicated nature of human progress. Even though we've made progress in reducing hunger, disease, and violence, and improving material wealth, the overall impact on human happiness is still unclear. The narrative challenges the idea that progress automatically makes us happier. It points out possible downsides, like weaker community bonds, more feelings of loneliness, and serious environmental damage. These issues cast doubt on the idea that progress always leads to a better life. This reflection urges us to think critically about the true costs of our constant pursuit of progress and whether these advancements really make us happier as a whole. In a strong closing, the author reminds us of the close connection between our advancements and our happiness, urging us to carefully consider the real impact of our drive for growth and innovation. This chapter serves as a deep reflection on our responsibilities and the tough choices we face as we move into the future, pushing us to think seriously about the direction of our evolution and the legacy we want to create. The final chapter of Sapiens talks about how important it is to understand our history as we deal with the challenges and opportunities of the future. By looking at the past, we learn about human nature, the unexpected twists in history, and the lasting effects of our decisions. The author, Yuval Noah Harari, explains that history isn't set in stone. Our future depends on what we do and decide. This idea gives us the power to shape our own future. To do this well, we need to learn from the past and think carefully about the ideas and beliefs that guide us, helping us to see beyond the present and imagine the many possibilities that lie ahead. As the book comes to an end, Harari urges us to think critically and make careful choices about the future of humanity and our planet. He warns us not to chase after power and progress without thinking about ethics and responsibility, as this could lead to serious problems. Harari highlights the big changes that could come from technologies like bioengineering, cyborg engineering, and artificial intelligence, and he raises important questions about what it means to be human. He calls for a thoughtful discussion about the kind of future we want to create. Harari encourages us to make choices that take into account the well-being of both people and the environment, reminding us that we are not just watching history happen, we are making it happen. The choices we make now will shape the world that future generations will live in, and we have a duty to make these decisions with care and wisdom. Sapiens ends with a strong reminder about the connection between progress, happiness, and responsibility. It tells us that the future isn't just something that happens to us, it's something we build through our choices and actions. Harari's message challenges us to think carefully about the future, urging us to work toward a world that is not only advanced in technology, but also ethical and sustainable. This final message serves as a call to action, asking us to think about our impact and the great responsibility we have in shaping the future of humanity and our planet. If you enjoyed this summary, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring you more insightful book summaries and practical advice. Stay tuned for more content that can help you achieve your financial goals and personal growth. Thanks for watching.